Hello, Newsweek friends. Welcome to our Newsweek LinkedIn Live. I'm Dorie Clark, and I am so fortunate that I am here with my friend Tiffany Dufu. Tiffany is the founder of the startup The Crew. We're going to be talking all about that today. And she's also the author of the book Drop the Ball, Achieving More by Doing Less, which sounds shockingly prescient for these times. Tiffany, this is kind of amazing. So yeah, how did you predict the pandemic? Like, you were ahead of the curve. How did that happen?
That was not intentional, Dorie. Thank you so much for having me. First of all, it definitely wasn't intentional, but I do have to say, having a strategy for releasing unrealistic expectations and letting go and engaging people in your life in a meaningful way has absolutely come in handy in the midst of this crisis.
I can imagine. So let's actually just rewind it, because I feel like a lot of people can really benefit from understanding some of the principles that you talk about in the book. So, obviously a couple of years ago when this was happening, it's not like we lived in a world that didn't have a lot going on and a lot of responsibilities then. I think things have amped up significantly in the past 6 months. But what was your life like then? What were the balls that you were dropping, and why did you decide to write that book?
Yeah. So first of all, I wrote a book called Drop the Ball because I'm a person who used to be terrified of ever dropping a ball. Okay, so dropping the ball for me was a terrible thing to do. It basically meant that you were failing to take timely action, that you were disappointing yourself, your family, your community, your boss. In my case, as dramatic as this sounds, I was disappointing the entire Black race, as if I mess this up, they are never going to hire another Black person again. Okay, so for me, dropping the ball was a bad thing. Yes. What happened was not that I developed some crazy inspirational, method for dropping the ball. What happened was that I had a life-changing event that caused the person who had always kept all of the balls perfectly in the air to have all of them come crashing down. For me, it was the birth of my first child. For some people, it's you finally get the promotion and realize it's a lot harder to be the boss than you thought it was going to be. For some people, it's a diagnosis. I've spoken to many people for whom this crisis that we're managing right now is their drop the ball moment. And what happened when I started dropping balls was that all of the things that I always thought would happen, that I was terrified of happening if I ever dropped a ball, none of those actually happened. In other words, Armageddon didn't hit. No one called to tell me that they didn't love me anymore. Because I hadn't responded to their text or their invitation.
I didn't get right now.
Drop it, girl.
Right,
drop it.
Hi, Philip the cat. How's it going?
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead. Drop it. We love that.
Yeah.
I didn't get fired from my job. No one came to read me my Miranda rights because I hadn't paid those tickets for not moving my car for alternate side parking. And so I started to question, Tiffany, why is it that for so long in your life you felt all of this pressure to have all of these balls in the air? And that just took me on a journey of really figuring out and kind of reappropriating the term. So for me, now dropping the ball means that I've let go of my own unrealistic expectations about how I need to keep them all in the air to begin with. I figured out what matters most to me. I figured out what my highest and best use is in achieving what matters most to me. And most importantly, I figured out how to get help from the people who are around me. And you're part of that journey of me getting the help that I need in order for me to thrive, Dorie. It's been an incredible journey. And that's really the core message of Drop the Ball.
Oh, that's fantastic, Tiffany. Thank you so much. I just want to greet some of our friends who are here watching. One of the great things about LinkedIn Live is that it is, of course, live, and so we have friends tuning in. We have let's see, we've got Annette coming here from Solana Beach. Hi, Annette. We have Rabbi Jessica from Denver. Hey there. We have Katie coming in. Sherry says hi. Kathy, so glad to see you. Mattia. Please, everybody who's here, please feel free, type into the chat box who you are and where you're from. We'd love to greet you, and we're really happy to have you here. We also, of course, are going to be taking your questions for Tiffany. So please feel free to start typing them into the chat box as well. We want to hear what is on your mind. William is here from the Space Coast of Florida. I love it. We've got Indrani, who is joining us from Bronxville. So all kinds of good folks here. We have Christina from Prague, an international audience here. We've got Nikki from Illinois and Kathy from Ontario, Robin from Hartford, Marjorie from Toronto. Welcome, everybody. This is fantastic. So Tiffany, I want to ask you, as we are thinking about, so let's just pretend that we have someone here who says, Tiffany, dropping the ball sounds like an excellent idea. Maybe I need to start doing that. How do you begin to draw that line between the balls that are okay to drop and the balls that definitely should not be dropped? Like, how do we make sure that we're not screwing up the thing that can't be screwed up?
Yes. So that's a great question. The first part is creating some kind of filter for yourself. And the first part of the filter, the first input, is really you getting clear about what matters most to you. And when I say that, I mean in your life overall. The three things that matter most to me are raising conscious global citizens, nurturing a really healthy partnership, and advancing women and girls. Basically, my life's work is advancing women and girls. A lot of the times when I ask people, well, what matters most to you? People rattle off parts of their life. It's very first response. My family is important to me. My career is important to me. What I try to encourage people to do is really probe deeper to answer the question, what do I hope to achieve in relationship to that area of my life? My career is very important to me, but I hope that my career results in the advancement of women and girls. That's what really matters most to me. My kids are important to me. Parenting is important to me. But what I really hope to achieve is that they grow into conscious global citizens, meaning that if they don't get into Harvard or Yale, I'm actually okay with that. I've dropped the ball on that as a parent. I want them to be really good people. I have been married for 23 years, and I learned in my drop the ball journey that just being married doesn't mean that you have an incredible partnership. So my goal in relationship to my marriage is that there are lots of people who I've spoken to who can kind of get at and dig. And one of the questions I often get is, okay, so what if I have no idea what matters most to me? I don't know. How do I figure that out? There are so many different exercises. A couple of them, Dorie, you're probably familiar with. I love Stephen Covey's funeral visualization exercise, where he asks us to think about what we would want people to say about us at the end of our journey, at the end of our life. I think right now in this moment, it's an extremely powerful exercise because we have people in our nation who are losing their lives around the world. You in Prague, you have people who are losing their lives, and to really think about at the end, do you want people to stand up, a family member or a friend or a coworker to say, well, she got a lot of things done on her to-do list. No, you want them to probably say something about the meaning and the impact that you created. And that's a great way of kind of getting yourself up into the forest and out of the trees. So I think that's a really important first step, is just getting clear about what matters most to you, because you're then going to have to figure out, in order to determine what balls you're going to drop, what your highest and best use is in achieving what matters most to you. Now, your highest and best use is usually a combination of what you do really well, usually with not a lot of effort, not because you're a prodigy, but because you've probably done it a lot in your life, combined with what are the things that only you can do, that it would be callous or highly irresponsible for you to delegate these things to other people. So in the instance of raising conscious global citizens, which is something that matters most to me, I use this example because a lot of parents out there right now are really stressed with what's going on with schools. One of the things that I do very well with very little effort is helping other people to achieve clarity through guidance and encouragement. Some people should say I could be a professional coach, but I don't have that as one of my business models. But of course, Dorie could teach me all about how to make that one of the parts of my portfolio. One of the things that I think only I can do in relationship to my kids is instill values in them. I kind of think it's hard to outsource the installation of values. So my highest and best use in raising conscious global citizens is having a meaningful conversation with my kids each and every day. I'm basically their coach, though some days they don't really like that. And if I have that conversation and I know that I'm doing that every single day, when in a pre-COVID world, I used to travel a lot. So sometimes it would have to be over technology. I'm confident that I'm applying my highest and best use to achieve what matters most to me. That means that I can drop the ball on knowing exactly what the schedule is for my daughter's middle school, which she started today. I can drop the ball on letting them be parented in probably a more responsible way, but certainly there is a lot of YouTube and Fortnite going on in my home right now. I think that's okay because ultimately, I think they're going to still be conscious global citizens if we talk about what's happening in the world right now, if we talk about what it means to be an American or a member of another country, what sacrifice means right now. If I'm doing my part to ensure that they have a solid relationship with themselves, with the world around them, I feel that I can drop the ball on a lot of stuff, which I'm doing right now. So that's just one example, Dorie, but I think that ultimately you've got to create your own strategy screen of what is it that I can do really well, what matters most to me. Sometimes what brings me joy, I've had a lot of people say, but I love doing the dishes. Okay, keep that on your
God
list. Bless you. Keep that on your list. But ultimately, I think it's kind of a one by one, but it's giving yourself permission and figuring out how to engage others, which we can talk about too.
Yeah, I think that's right on, Tiffany. I know in my own life, I mean, there are things that I'm one might potentially be embarrassed about, but I just, I feel like, it's okay. For instance, until COVID happened and there was that like 2-week period where everybody was scared to leave the house, like at all period. I pretty much had not cooked anything for about 5 years because I live in New York. And so I like to say to myself, it's cheaper. I don't know if it actually is if you're cooking for one, but I am not a chef type person. So I just, I buy the food and that is sort of my version of making things work. I feel like, okay, the highest and best use is not me burning something else in the kitchen. So I'm going to optimize elsewhere.
That's it. That's exactly right.
Yeah, well, thank you. That's great, and thank you all for being here. I see lots of new folks chiming in. We have great folks. I saw Raul is here. Param is here from Boston. We have Para from South Africa. So we have Susie from New York. So thank you guys so much. If you're just joining, please feel free to type in and let us know where you are from. We're also going to be taking questions from Tiffany coming up. So please feel free to type them in now. We're going to be doing that. I just want to remind you all that if you would like to be part of the series on an ongoing basis every single Thursday at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific, we are at 5 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time. We are doing this interview series for Newsweek. If you want to be part of it, tune in every week. Make sure you're following Newsweek on LinkedIn. Make sure you're following me and Tiffany, for that matter, on LinkedIn. You can open a new window and click to do that right now so you never miss one. And you can also go to this link, dorieclark.com/LinkedIn, to subscribe to my weekly LinkedIn newsletter, and you will get reminders about these excellent events. So we hope you can do that. So Tiffany, I wanted to ask you now, I wanted to transition. Something that you have done that's been your big focus as of late is your startup, The Crew. And I love the story. You have on your website kind of an origin story about it. Maybe you can tell us a little bit what the vision is, because I feel like this is actually something that also is rather on point for COVID in the world that we're living in. What is The Crew?
It really is. Part of my drop the ball journey, Dorie, was learning how to get the help that I need, learning how to ask for help, and how to meaningfully engage other people in my life in order for me to be successful. I have been the cumulative investment of mentors and sponsors and people who have invested in me, but it took a while for me to really understand in my life, in my career, that I was effectively the coach, and that I really need to be more intentional about curating a group of people who would hold me accountable and really help me to advance my personal and professional success. I call those people my crew. I've been working with my personal crew for years now, and it's a group of 9 other really incredible women. We share our ambitions. We help one another create plans in order to execute on those ambitions. We support one another with social, political, economic capital. It's been amazing. And so I have been for years giving women that I connect with this pep talk about how they need to find their crew. And the origin story that you're referring to happened in January 2018. I was at this beautiful female-focused collaborative space meeting with this woman, and I was telling her about how she needed to find her crew. And I don't know if you've ever had a time in your life where you were talking to someone and you could tell that they were not feeling what you were saying, but I was having one of those moments. And thankfully, this woman was honest with me. She basically said, Tiffany, I understand theoretically this idea of having a group of people who can really help fuel your life and can really serve as an inspiration and a peer accountability group for you. But I don't think you appreciate the amount of work that goes into finding that group. And then she walked me through the workflow because she was right. I really didn't get it because I had benefited from this. She started with, first, I'd have to get access to the cocktail party, the conference, or the event, which, hello, in the wake of a viral pandemic is particularly difficult to do. Then I'd have to awkwardly introduce myself to strangers, collect a bunch of business cards. Then you want me to take them out of the bottom of my bag or my desk drawer. Email all of these people to schedule coffees and teas and lunches. Did I mention to you that I had to take time off of my job to meet you at this lovely place at 10 a.m. on a Tuesday? Then you want me to meet with all these people, find out who I'm compatible with, and organize regular meetings where we put forth our goals together. I have a full-time job. I have 3 kids. I have a mom with a diagnosis and a dog and a commute. Tiffany, I don't have time to do what you're asking me to do. And I came to you because you wrote this book called Drop the Ball. I thought you were going to make it easier, not give me more to do. And for me, that was yes. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It was some truth telling. And for me, it was what I call a Tiffany's epiphany moment. Some people call them aha moments, where I realized, oh my goodness, if your life's work is advancing women and girls, you should probably stop preaching about how you need to find your crew, and you should just find the damn crew. So that's what the crew literally does. You just give us 20 minutes of your time to fill out an application, and we match you with 9 other individuals. The 10 of you become a crew, and you collaborate to meet your goals together. That's really what the crew is here for.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Thank you very much, Tiffany. And I think you raise a really interesting point, which is it is so challenging. I mean, leaving aside the pandemic, it is so challenging for adults, for grown-ups, people who are busy, to actually take the time to form and build relationships. I mean, I know 6 years ago now, I moved to New York City from Boston, and it was this almost monumental task. Like, it had to be not a full-time job, but it was probably, I don't know, maybe 30% of my time job for about a year was basically rebuilding my social life and building a professional network for myself, because it was just so hard. For so many people, we don't even do anything from the time that we're in college. And when you're in college, it's like handed to you on a platter. Right. And then as an adult, it for a lot of us, it either happens organically or it doesn't happen, which is terrible. So if you really want to build a crew, to build, your network, your posse, you have to expend a lot of energy in that. That's actually one of the things that I talk about. I've just, my summer COVID project has been writing my newest book. It's going to be out next year. It's called The Long Game from Harvard Business Review Press. Thank you. If folks want to learn more about it, please feel free to sign up for my mailing list at dorieclark.com. But we have a whole chapter about relationship building and how to build sustainable long-term networks. So I think this is really right on. So we have some great comments and questions coming in, Tiffany, from folks who are joining us for our LinkedIn Live session. And I wanted to just mention one here that I thought was really interesting. Sherry wanted to know, Tiffany, what is the most important thing that you want women and girls to know during their journey of self-discovery and growth? How would you respond to that?
First of all, hi, Sherry. I know, Sherry.
Oh,
There
fantastic.
are, there are a couple of things. The first thing that I want everyone to know is that if you want something that you've never had before, you're going to have to do something that you've never done before in order to get it. I want us to get outside of our comfort zones. It's like my mother-in-law says. My mother-in-law is from Ghana, and she always says, if things are getting easier, it's probably because you're headed downhill. So I want us to kind of embrace the conflict, embrace the challenge, which is kind of the process that we're all going through right now, because it's on the other side of that we get to the breakthrough.
Yeah, that's really powerful. I think that makes a lot of sense. Another question, Tiffany, that came up, and please feel free, guys, type them into the chat box. We'd love your comments. We'd love your questions. But this is a powerful one that I think a lot of people are dealing with. Annette says that, there's a new role for me, being a long distance caregiver or coordinator for a family member with cancer, and the anxiety is palpable. We can certainly understand that, Annette. Any suggestions in helping me coach my loved one? What do you make of this, Tiffany?
Yeah, I think this is so interesting. I mean, the first thing that I'll say is my heart just goes out to you and your family. And thank you so much for being an essential worker. Caregiving is something that adds so much GDP to our economy and yet is not compensated or rewarded in the way that other roles and responsibilities are. So kudos to you. I think especially when people are reflecting on their journey and on their lives, what they most want is just to know that they made a difference, that they mattered. And so you being there and you reinforcing and doing the storytelling for that person around the times when they inspired you, they encouraged you, that their time here has been precious and that it's made an impact, I think is an incredible gift that you can give to them. I think the other gift that you can give to them is the caregiving of yourself. Sometimes we spend so much time caring for others, and I can't imagine that in this situation, you're not bending over backwards to take care of this person, but they need to see you taking care of yourself as well. And so make sure that you're hydrating, that you're snacking, that you're seeing your physician or doctor over the Zoom or whatever platform or, it is. Just make sure that you're caring for yourself as you're caring for them.
Yeah, thank you very much for that, Tiffany. And it's really true. I mean, I remember at a really basic level, I used to work in politics, and as we approached the primary, I was actually sick. I mean, this is ridiculous. I was sick for 7 weeks. 7 weeks I had this cold, and it was the dumbest thing in the world because literally once I got on antibiotics, it was gone in like 3 days. But I felt like I just literally felt like I did not have time to go to the doctor. And I think about how silly it was just performing so suboptimally for that period of time because, I can't possibly spare an hour. So small things about taking care of ourselves can be really powerful. So thank you for that reminder. So please feel free, guys, type in your questions into the chat box. Another one that came through, I think this is good. It's a little, it's a kind of a contrarian question, and I think that we, it's helpful because I don't think this is necessarily probably what you're arguing, Tiffany, but let's throw it out there. We say, why do you have to throw parties to connect people? I always struggle to comprehend this. So what are your thoughts about this?
Well, first of all, part of the reason why people really value the crew is that no one has to throw a party. Basically, we take information about you, about your values, about your personality, about your goals, and we try to help curate a situation that's a bit less awkward and a lot less costly than the wine and cheese for the party. I actually resonate with this person because I am an introvert, despite what you might see right now on your screen, and I find it terrifying. Actually, Dorie, you host, dinners on a regular basis. I came to yours and I was so happy that you welcomed me and that you introduced me to people and helped me get over my introversion jitters. But I actually prefer to be connected one-on-one or to have someone curate a community for me that I can show up to and that it has enough structure and format that I just don't feel like I'm, left to the wind. So I don't think that you have to throw a party. I think there are many ways to connect, and I'm all for all of of them.
Amen to that. That's absolutely right. I mean, I am a fan of throwing parties, as evinced by Tiffany mentioning that I had a gathering, pre-COVID, obviously, bringing people together. But actually, for me, I think this is an important point that gets overlooked sometimes. Actually, when you are the host of the gathering, that is actually the most powerful position for an introvert to be in. Because if you are an introvert and you are subject to the whims and the mercy of other people who have not really thought the process through, it can be really weird and uncomfortable. Because oftentimes extroverts, not to diss extroverts, sorry, but they're like, oh, well, people will get together and things will happen, and it's because like, oh, well, things happen for them because they don't care, but if you're an introvert, things do not just happen.
They don't.
No,
they require courage.
And so if I'm so if I'm running the party and I'm an introvert, I can plan it and I can make sure that it is exactly the way that I want it. And if it's optimized for me, then it's optimized for other introverts. And
Wow.
I think that's my strategy, is like whenever things are like a little dicey, take control.
Well, that's why I loved your party.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate it. So we had a great question come in, Tiffany, and we've got time for just a couple more as we're coming up on our half hour, but they're great questions, guys. Thank you. I want to share this. Oh, wow. I guess I won't necessarily put this up here because it's going to block our faces, but I'll read it because it's a great question. It's from Rabbi Jessica. And she says, Tiffany, I'd love to hear more about how you discern the balance between doing and being. If we know that soaking up life's simple pleasures and cultivating meaningful relationships is a prime core value, and we also want to build a thriving business, how do you honor dancing between those things? Great question.
It's a great question. It's a hard question because my answer to that question has been to make them one and the same thing. My life's work is advancing women and girls. That's pretty much why I'm on the planet. And so my entrepreneurship is part and parcel of why I'm here and the impact and the difference that I want to make in the world. So all of the doing of pitching venture capitalists, of planning meetings, of hiring people is all in the interest of helping the women that I want to serve realize their intentions. So I have a clear sense of my purpose, why I'm here, whose shoulders I stand on. And I stand very firm in my values and my beliefs. And I also have found a way to monetize that as well. And so I find that the most efficient thing is to not try to be and do two different things. But to really consolidate. And not everyone is at a place in their career or their life where they can do that. But I think that moving toward that place is a really beautiful thing.
I really love that, Tiffany. Thank you for sharing that. And it's really, I think, true for me as well. I actually did an article a couple of years ago for the Harvard Business Review where I was talking about time tracking. And one of the things that I discovered is that, kind of amazingly, I was marking down my time for an entire month. And I discovered that I actually had about a third more time, quote unquote, than most other people, more than the 168 hours in the week, because I was, I would count something if I could legitimately do it twice, like if it counted for two things. And because so much of my networking time was also the same time that I was spending with friends, which I counted as two different categories, I was making a third more time. And that is only possible because my personal life and my work life are pretty much the same thing. So I love that. So I think we have probably time for one more speed round question, Tiffany, if that's okay with you. Amazing. And I'll just remind people, please follow, so you get notifications about this. Follow Newsweek on LinkedIn. You can do that now. You can open up a separate button. Follow Newsweek, follow Tiffany, follow me. You can learn more at dorieclark.com. And the last question that I wanted to ask you, it's actually a reinvention question, Tiffany. And I know you've reinvented yourself a number of times, but Charlotte says, what would you suggest for someone like me? She has had a successful photography business for 27 years, but because of COVID, business has dried up a lot in the last 6 months. She's thinking about pivoting, but it feels kind of daunting. What are your thoughts about how to reinvent yourself?
Yes. My thoughts are that I would not encourage you to reinvent yourself. I would encourage you to open the aperture of how you serve people, and what it is that you do. For example, you're a photographer. I imagine you used to do that work in person. I also imagine that you have a lot of expertise about what someone looks like through a lens and how to optimize that. Right now, everyone is on some kind of virtual platform. That is how we're amplifying our brands. That's how we're meeting with our colleagues. That's how we're going to school. So I could see a whole business around teaching people and supporting people with how to show up, on these platforms, because you know how you're supposed to look on the other side. Even think about one-on-one coaching sessions where you get onto one of these platforms with people and you help them with what's behind them, what color, they're wearing, maybe their hair or their makeup, how far away they are from the lens in order to support them in really being their best self. So I think that you have some really great expertise. I actually think that your expertise is necessary right now. If you could just think about pivoting to doing that in a new way. And I have other ideas, but that's just the first thing that comes to my mind.
I love it. That's so helpful, Tiffany. Thank you so much for that. And I agree. I think there's a lot of possibilities these days now that we are in such a screen-based world. Photographers have a lot of great insight in that. Tiffany Dufu, thank you for being here. Tiffany, of course, is the founder of The Crew, which we learned from one of our commenters means raw in Portuguese. That's awfully sexy. So congratulations.
Ooh, I didn't know that. Thank you.
Amazing. And you can learn more about Tiffany at tiffanydufu.com, author of Drop the Ball. You can stay in touch and learn about all of these sessions. They happen every Thursday, 12 Eastern, 9 Pacific, and you can get notifications. Go to dorieclark.com. You can sign up for my list and get information there. And most importantly, thanks to Newsweek for creating this. And be sure, if you have enjoyed this conversation, type into the comments, type into the chat box what you learned or what you like best, and hit the share button so that other people can benefit from this conversation. So thank you. Yay participants, yay Newsweek, yay Tiffany, and thank you all so much.
Thank you.